In this video, we're going to be talking about the dreaded click, where you've got click but no movement. It can normally be one of a few things, but your most common thing is your solenoids, one of your solenoids being bad, one or more. The next thing could either be dead batteries or a bad motor. So obviously the first thing to do is charge your batteries and make sure that they are good. If you have determined that it can't be your batteries, then here's a way to test out your solenoids one by one. Pretty simple and quick. For the purpose of this video, my solenoids work just fine. However, I have disconnected the last solenoid from the pump, so we're getting the click noise because the power has nowhere to go. Alright, so as you can see, the 3 solenoids for my one front pump. Obviously, I've already grounded one side of the tester light, so a good ground. So in order to test your good ground, yep, I've got a good ground, so I've got a light. So on your first one, as you can see, I've got power going to it. Now to see if you've got one of your solenoids either stuck open or it's broke, you can go to the very next one. Now, here's the easiest way. Obviously, it's not lighting up. I know this is my front pump, so I'm gonna hit the switch. As soon as I hit the switch, if power goes through, then this solenoid is most likely good. Lit up, so this solenoid is most likely good. So I can go over to the next one. Because the power is going through this one to this one, I can test the next one. This solenoid is good. So now I can go to the next one. Now, if it flickers in any way and doesn't stay, lit up, if it's a very weak light, go ahead and change that one. Now, let's say, for example, this one was bad and I did not get a light. There is a way to test each individual one to skip one. Now, what you want to do is either take and move your power source going to this first one to the second one and hit the switch and see if the power goes through, or a quicker way is to get something like a jumper cable or something along those lines and connect it from this right here where you're getting power to the next one. Just connect it. Now be careful not to touch anything else, but connect it. So it's gonna, by connecting it, you're gonna be bypassing this one right here. So once you connected it, let's say from here to here, just one solid wire from here to here, but it has to be a pretty good size wire. Can't be just some speaker wire or something. Has to be, something of good size. So say you've connected it from here to here, and then you go to hit the switch, and then this one does light up from that point forward, then you know that the only solenoid that's bad is this one. Now, if while you're checking them, if power goes through on this one and through on this one and not on this one, obviously it's this one. So it's pretty easy to figure out, to narrow it down pretty fast which one is bad. Now, if you have checked all of these and you find out that it can't be any of those and they are all working, then your next thing to check would be most likely your batteries. Now, batteries are tricky. When it comes to batteries, you can have batteries that take a charge that may actually still be bad. Just because they're taking a charge doesn't necessarily mean they're still good. Take them to any of your local auto parts stores and have them actually test the batteries. You may have one with a dead cell in it. It will still take a charge that way. Normally, your 2 common problems are solenoids first, batteries next, and then after that, most likely is your motor. Now, if you have determined that all your solenoids are good, every single battery is new and working, then it is most likely your motor. If you have a 2-pump setup and one of your pumps is working but the other one's not, then chances are your batteries are good. Or you can take and switch motors. And switching a motor is pretty simple, and I will discuss that in another video. A few other things that I'd like to note. If you're not getting a good ground on everything within a system, chances are it's not going to work. So you want to make sure that when you're bolting down your solenoids, I use self-tapping screws. Self-tap them down to the metal, and you might even go to the extent of sanding down the metal just a little bit to make sure it's getting real good contact before you screw these down. But use screws, make sure that that is on there really good. Each one. Make sure everything is tight. It cannot be moved. The next, if you're getting the click, you could have a weak connection on one of your cables. You want to make sure that all of your cables are connected very well. Another thing that I've seen that somebody brought to me that thought that their whole system was messed up. Turns out, charged the batteries and everything worked fine, but the actual cause of the problem was their ground. Their ground was pretty much burned up. So if you notice that this is black and chipped off and broke off, and it has been sparking before, go ahead and replace it. It's very cheap to replace these. You want to make sure that it has very good contact. It does not move. Good contact. These things are meant to go in and spin and catch. Your pumps, everything needs to be nice and tight. Make sure everything is tight. Now later on in these videos, I'm going to be posting on how to make individual wires for your batteries. Now I make each one of mine because I like to have really thick, nice, they can hold plenty of power. I go to my local welding shop, and they sell me the wire, and then I cut to fit. Now I'm going to be showing how to make each one of those. Now I don't just clamp them down, so I'll show you in another video on how I go about making those wires. Now you can make them even closer. I like to have mine, have a little bit of play if there's any movement, but as you can see, they're nice and tight. They're not moving.